What is the deal, Reapers? What is the deal? Man, I am back. It's been a long time. I definitely should not have left y'all, man. Trust me and believe me, man. School has been whooping my ass, man. I wanted to get on here and put up some podcasts really bad. I know the last one I put up was to kill the king and take the crown. That was part 1. Part 2 will be coming to y'all, but not this week. It'll be next week. I actually wanted to get into something today that kind of follows along with kind of like the conscious message that I've been pushing out for most of this month. It's going to be a constant theme on both the podcast and also the YouTube channel. But this is just to kind of get us back rolling on topic a little bit. And I'm going to get back into the kill the king, take the crown next week. Some more motivational and social and political and business maneuvering that's going to be I don't want to say taught, but basically just, I guess you could say taught. But so Reapers, before I get into anything, I definitely want to tell y'all to, if you have not done so, to subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give it a like if you're looking at it on YouTube. Give it a like if you listen to it on Spotify. I appreciate all the support, man. Whoever's listening to this, I know we got some new ears tuning in from some different countries I saw on the analytics, so I appreciate that. Definitely like, subscribe if you guys are feeling the content. But without further ado, getting into what the topic is tonight is we are talking about why black people seem to not be able to be supportive or even happy for other black people's success. Now, this is not a general statement, because I know there's a lot of black sisters and brothers out there who are very supportive. I see that firsthand with my channel. I see it a lot. I tend to associate myself with very positive and encouraging black people. That's a major credential when it comes to the friends I have and the company I keep. Just anybody around me. You really just can't be around me if you're a negative individual. You can't be around me if you're not ambitious, if you're not striving. So I see a lot of this. I see a lot of very positive black people. But obviously, just looking around, you just look at how many black rappers are killed by other black people. Now, that's also a reflection of the community. Hip-hop has always been just a reflection of the community. But a lot of it is strictly due off of just pure hatred. Chinks, drugs, R.I.P. Pop Smoke just died today. A lot of this is just based off of just envy and jealousy, and it's disgusting. You go back to like what Boosie said on DJ Vlad. You're hypnotized by hatred. It's just really, it's crazy, man. It's a unfortunate situation. And that derives from a lot of different factors. And, I like to get into some historical topics when I talk about black history and black people and my stance on certain things. And if you guys have not, I would definitely watch. There's a documentary that was made. I'm going to get the name for y'all. I'm going to post it. Probably not with this. I got to do a little research to remember. But I say it's about 5 years ago now. Right, I was a junior in high school. So 5 years ago, I was in AP English in high school, and we had watched a video that actually taught me some things I didn't know about black history. I thought I had, at that point, had a general understanding of a few things, not everything, but some very prominent facets of black American history. But this was different. They went into the black American depiction in like American films and in the media, right? And it was talking about basically how you have like if you guys haven't heard like the terms like the mammy and the Zambo and things like that. These are basically characterizations of black people that they had on cartoons and in shows, basically to perpetuate a stereotype of black people. Now, here's what's so, I'm not gonna say dope, but here's what's so crazy about this, right? So when you watch these, right, you'll see, they had like one of the things they showed was it was like a book of like these little black kids, and they will all be, I can't remember what the black kid's name was as far as the characters, but they were all being killed. It was legitimately a children's book of them showing little black like girls and boys being killed, and it was very, very violent. Like one of them I remember stuck out to me. They had the little girl with braids, little black girl with braids, got eaten by a fucking crocodile, which is some dark and fucked up shit to put into a children's book that was legitimately being pushed out into stores and given to children. Like it was being given as gifts, postcards and things like that. So a lot of people believe that they was using this to perpetuate racism into, the white psyche, and, kind of keep how their idea of us, kind of keep it going. And this was all in like the early 1900s, very early and very, I guess, prime Jim Crow era, post-Reconstruction. But here's what's so crazy about it, right? And here's my opinion on this and why I feel black people today can't ever, like, we're just in our own ways. I don't think that, though, I mean, they did perpetuate that negative stereotype into white people's psyche, but I don't think that was meant solely for them. I think it was meant more for black people than it was meant for white people. What I mean by that is I feel as though as a black person, when you look at on TV and on the news how devalued you are as an individual, like I feel like we say Black Lives Matter not just to convince the world, but to convince ourselves that we matter, that our life is as important as another life. When you see how everybody went crazy over the shootings, I think it was in France, the mass shootings, but 120 people can get blown to bits in Africa, and you might see a couple Facebook posts share it, but there's no, there's no flags being put up. There's no, when black blood is spilled compared to white blood, it's just not the same sadness. It's not the same hurt that everybody has. When these school shootings happen, part of the reason why I don't support that gun control bullshit that the left tries to push out is when these school shootings happen, it's white on white a lot of times. It's a white dude comes in there with a fucking rifle or whatever the fuck he has, and he shoots up the school. They don't say it's them doing it to each other. They don't say anything like that. They say it's mass violence and it has to stop. But when a little girl gets shot in her head, or a group of kids, teenagers, get killed in a car, triple homicides, quadruple homicides, they're not talking about gun control. What's the difference? Even if a black person did it, it was white on white crime, and it seemed that's what makes people want to push laws and change things. It's because there was teenagers dying in the hood too. But you didn't hear about that. You especially didn't hear about it in the 80s and the 90s. You don't hear about it now. They're not pushing for gun reform in a lot of these places. You talk about Chicago, you got Baltimore, you got New Orleans, you got a lot of places out there, St. Louis, you got a lot of places out there where a lot of young African American kids are dying, and they're not talking about gun reform. So that's what, like, in our psyche, we want to remind ourselves that we're important, that our lives matter. So that's part of the reason why we say things like that. But when you look at going back into the 1920s and the 10s and things like that, you can see how these characterizations stick in the minds of black people, because you already, when you go outside, you go into society, you feel it. If you're black and you just walking around back then and even now, you just feel like you're not being respected on the same level as other people. But then when you watch TV, or you look at these books and these cartoons, you see the same thing, it kind of perpetuates it. So then when you see a black person, right, and I'm going to use a prime example, I'm going to use Jay-Z. Jay-Z is one of our first black billionaires in hip-hop, which is sad for the simple fact that hip-hop is a black created, a black run, and a black influenced culture. But every head of every record label, there's none of them that are black. You talking about Leor Cohen, you talking about Jimmy Iovine, all these dudes probably never listened to it. I could guarantee you that none of the people who I just listed ever listened to rap on their free time. ever. They probably, when they come to the office, they listen to it. This is what these little niggas gonna like, so let's sign him, and leave it at that. They don't got it in their phones. They don't listen to it in the gym. They don't listen to it in the car. They don't have, they probably don't, they don't care nothing about black culture other than the fact they making money off of it. And just like Dame Dash said, they're there to run the niggas. That's all they're there for. But when you look at Jay-Z, somebody who is essentially breaking that mold, what's the first thing they say about him, right? When he starts making that true transition. Because if you guys remember, around 10 years ago, when he started first making that transition around 2009, 2010, when people start saying, damn, Jay-Z really getting money right now. He not on no rapper shit. Like, he's really trying to build and grow, and he's becoming like a true mogul. The same thing about Diddy. What they say? Illuminati. They all Illuminati. Every successful black person is Illuminati now. Right? And it's crazy too, because the people that was going hardest about it, bro, they were all from the Christian community. Going hard. Illuminati this, murder Jesus, such and such. Look at all this shit up. A lot of y'all might not remember it. Now, before I go on, the murder Jesus thing I was talking about was from, I believe it was, what was that song Jay-Z had? It was Lucifer, Son of the Morning, I'm gonna chase you out of earth. That was the name. That wasn't the name of the song, but that was the beat. But he said murder, like they played it in reverse and it said murder Jesus, some stupid shit like that. It was just a whole bunch of nonsense, a whole bunch of conspiracy theory bullshit. And they was pushing it. They was talking about it for cartoons too, but it was mainly coming up a lot in music, and especially in rap music. And this is all they're talking about, and they're saying about how all these successful black people, and then they talking about LeBron was Illuminati, just like no one can seem to cope with the fact that someone who looks just like them is successful and didn't use a white person to get there. Think about that. Jay-Z didn't use a white person to get to where he's at. LeBron didn't use a white person to get to where he's at. Who else? Diddy. These dudes didn't need white people to get to where they were. They used their business smarts. They used their opportunistic ways, and they used hard work to get to where they're at. We can't believe that. You know why? Because of what's been perpetuated through society. That the only way a black person can be successful is because Massa gave it to him. That's what's been pushed into it. That's what's been kind of drilled into our psyches for hundreds of years. You see what I'm saying? So when I look around and I see just the utter hatred that's just given off, like I gotta tell y'all honestly, and I was talking about this the other day with one of my friends. In my life, coming from my background and going towards the thing I've been going to and the things I've accomplished, all the people that's ever tried to hold me back, I won't say all, I'll say 90% of the people who try to hold me back in my life, who've done things to sabotage me, to hurt me, to just knock me off my path, they've all been black. Every single last one of them black. I can name maybe like 3 white people, and then those 3 white people, I don't even really think that, I think it was just collateral damage. They just felt how they felt, so it was like, fuck it, you in there too. But for the most part, if someone's ever tried to get me fired, if someone's ever tried to I'm talking about just some real grimy, sad shit. I'm talking about just like something that you would look at, it's like, wow, like why, like you wouldn't even do that to a normal person, but to a black person? And it happens often. I won't say often, I'll say once every couple years or so, or at least once or twice a year. And they all black, man. They're all black people. The hatred, and it's legitimately, and it's sad because I know where it derives from, but they don't know where it derives from. And that's what's so crazy about it, is because, you may just come to the idea that, everybody who's in their older 30s and 40s and stuff like that, they're hip to game. A lot of them aren't. I'm conscious the way I'm conscious because of the people I grew up around. You know what I mean? I grew up being called a king, being called a god. You know what I'm saying? I grew up getting the knowledge of what black people are and who we are and where we come from. And a lot of people didn't get that. They were just getting the white Jesus pictures and when they went to church. And the Dead Sea Scrolls, which talk about us being born slaves, the mark of Cain. I'll get into that in another podcast and video, but it gets deep. I don't want to kind of go too much off topic. But not everybody was hip to this. Not everybody was taught these things, and it's almost. It's really sad just for the simple fact that I feel like if we knew more about ourselves, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to start moving the podcast and the channel, not completely towards this, but I wanted to definitely make this a prevalent theme in the channel, because if we knew more about who we are, dog, and the things that we've accomplished as people, we would not be so eager to tear down other black people because we feel as though they were put in a position through Illuminati or through kissing ass or through whatever the case may be. We wouldn't be that eager. Like a lot of black people, if you was to ask somebody, has black people I saw someone, it was like, Europeans have been victimizing black people for the last for forever. I was like, victimizing black people? You're talking about after the fact. A lot of them don't know the reason why Spain and Portugal and all these. I think the first country to do the Atlantic slave trade was Portugal. I gotta double check my facts, but I'm sure that's who it was. The way the Italian mafia felt about us, the racism and all this other shit. They don't know that black people, the Moors, the African Moors, they went to Europe. They were conquering countries. They were running countries for hundreds of years. They tried to destroy the documentation because they was embarrassed because they was getting spanked. King Hannibal went into Europe on elephants, was destroying Europe. The most richest man on this earth, this planet Earth, every billionaire on this earth does not have the same amount of wealth that was amassed by Mansa Musa, who was the king of the Mali Empire. Look him up. This is a factual statement. This was documented. We come from a long line of kings and queens and a long heritage of vicious and fierce warriors. They talk about how they had to get black people to... Africa is the motherland. Our bodies were able to sustain to survive in an environment that the Europeans couldn't. They weren't going into Africa and running through the jungle and trying to catch black. Fuck no, they had the black people doing it by bribing them. But the reason being that they was doing that was because they couldn't survive. They wasn't gonna make it in no jungles like that. They would get sick way too fast. The heat, everything else, it is too much. But again, it plays back into they've found the perfect recipe to turn black people against each other. And that's religion and money. I'm just gonna tell it the way it is. They took us, they told us that for one, you need to pray to a white God. Jesus is in black, he's white. The blonde hair, blue eyes, that's who you're praying to. That's the highest of the high. Then they're going to turn around, and when you look through these scrolls, when you look through this Bible, they're going to talk about how, like I said, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the mark of Cain, and all his descendants, or black, they're bound to be slaves. And then you talk about, well, now that y'all we're feeding you this slavery bullshit. We're telling you that the highest of high is not someone who looks like you, when in all actuality, he definitely wasn't white. Now they're going to go in and feed you. You got to forgive us now too. Because you can't hold that hatred. You can't try to get back at us or demand that we apologize. Nah, you got to forgive us. As a matter of fact, don't even forgive us. Don't just forgive us. Matter of fact, pay money to us too. It has never dawned on anybody, though, that we have some of the poorest communities in America. You got kids who can't eat at night, who don't have a place to fucking stay, but they're talking about millions on millions of dollars being put into the black church every year. You got kids that can't eat. Between welfare and the money being put in the church, I guarantee you could feed every black child who doesn't have a meal tonight. And that's the truth. We're less than 20% of the population. You tell me we can't do that? With millions and millions of dollars? But instead, we're going to ask for reparations instead of demanding that we don't give it that much into something that was beaten into us. There's a picture I love seeing on Instagram all the time. We hate everything about slavery but Christianity. But guess what? Like I said, they control you with the religion, and then they control you with the money. Because guess what? Not only do you not trust each other, not only do we have control of your minds, but you know what? Money creates envy. We're going to starve you motherfuckers. We're going to go in your communities, put drugs in there, keep you in these impoverished environments. And when somebody's in a hungry and a vulnerable state, they'll do anything. For people that sit there and talk about in these communities, they're killing, they're doing all this other stuff. If I was to take you and strip you of all your fucking money, a lot of these people out here, when you go out there and you see these people who lose their jobs and they jump off of buildings the same day, a lot of people ain't built to be broke. They're not. A lot of motherfuckers who run their mouth would not know what to do if they was really put in that situation. 100%. If you talk to any black person that ever says that nonsense, a lot of times you ask them how they came up, they'd be like, I mean, we was middle class. We didn't have... Shh. Nah, bro. Go into them trenches. Be broke. Be fucked up. Be in a homeless shelter. And see if you still have that same mentality. Because let me tell you something. When you desperate, you desperate. When you hungry, you gonna make it work. It's gonna happen. You gotta find a way to get it. You put somebody in a vulnerable, in a survival state, they're gonna survive. They're gonna survive because they need to live, because their family needs to live. So they're gonna do what they gotta do. And that's where that comes. But at the same time, don't look to the source of why it's happening, because you gotta forgive them. But you know what? For this money, you gotta kill the person that looks just like you, because you gotta survive. That's how they're controlling this shit, bro. And it's deep and it's evil and it's fucked up. But at the same time, we've gotten into this false reality. And it's gotten so deep that now we're listening to these goofy motherfuckers talking about there's no such thing as racism. We're listening. We're agreeing with the bullshit. Agreeing with it. Legitimately, we're sitting there, we're bold-faced. I wasn't a slave. I wasn't such and such. It doesn't fucking matter if you was a slave. You know why? Because your friends and family that was living in the hood, those drugs that they was doing, they was pushed into that bitch. Those people that's in jail that was selling those drugs that was pushed in by George Bush and Oliver North and them crooked fucking Ronald Reagan and all them fucking dope pushers. The people that's doing these opioids and things like that. When George Bush sent them people over there into Iraq, saying that they was going in there for weapons of mass destruction, and people was thinking that was really oil, but nah, they didn't know that the Middle East is the biggest distributor of opioids in the world. They're not looking at that. They're not looking at the source. These people pushing drugs in the community. But nah, I wasn't this, you know what I mean? There ain't no way for me to prove systematic racism. That's crazy. The fuck out of here, bro. But again, man, if you don't know about it, then it's not gonna make sense. So I'm gonna keep pushing these out, man, because I gotta get this information out there, dog. Because we need to wake up. We need to wake the fuck up. Cause it's never gonna get any better, man. And it was something I was watching an interview with Kevin Gates the other day, and I loved it. It was he had said something. I watched it a few times, but he said something that's real dope. And he was like, when he went to court, the judge said ignorance of the law is no excuse. That is a powerful statement, because it could be used in all different facets of life, and it can be utilized in so many different ways. Ignorance of your history is no excuse for you to sit there and side with these motherfuckers wearing these Make America Great Again hats. There's no excuse whatsoever. Because just because you don't know where you come from and what's been going on and what the history is of this country, and you're not hip to what's going on, that doesn't give you a right to sit there and side with these motherfuckers. That's why we have that fucking disdain for people like Kanye. But I don't wanna get too far off. But again, man, we gotta start looking at ourselves and the whole issue of black people not wanting to see other black people succeed. It runs deep. It runs some years deep. But it's Devontae's Reaper Training. As I told y'all in the beginning, man, please like, comment, and subscribe. Keep showing support to the channel, man. I'm gonna get some more content to y'all, man. I know I've been saying that it's been a hectic weekend. Your boy out here trying to be successful as bad as possible, man. I hope y'all doing the same. We hunting goals out here all 2020. Man, I appreciate y'all again. It's Devontae. We don't chase dreams, we hunt goals. Let's go up.